Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another TV show review. And I'm excited for this because I've been waiting to get to the review of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Season 1. We wrapped up all of Duel Monsters. Now we're going to be talking about, we'll be going through, technically it's English, three seasons of the English dub, but I will also cover the Japanese season 4 to wrap it up. So it's 4 seasons in total. So we'll eventually get through them all, but there's gonna be other shows I want to get through each season one at a time, then come back to uh, GX because next thing I will be doing a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure season 1 spoiler review. But I'm gonna be binge watching that to do that review later down the line. Then Duel Masters. Then I believe what is the well gonna be doing it's gonna be a lot of card related reviews, but it will be shoot uh card captors, which is only be doing that one season. So then I'll come in right around to GX again. So anyway, I love this. I mean, the main character now is going to be Jaden Yuki or Yuki, uh, not to be confused with Yugi. Uh, funny, I won't say funny, but fun fact, because yesterday I just had to look into this because uh, it's something that I thought was kind of funny. It's just the first out of all the Yu-Gi-Oh series, GX season 1 is the longest episode run of a season of at least season 1 compared to the other Yu-Gi-Oh series, Duel Monsters GX, Duel Monsters 5Ds, Zexal, and Arc 5 Reigns. Compared to all those first seasons, this one is the longest, 51, 50, please 52. Yeah, 52 episodes out of season 1 that ran through all of from like it started from October 10th, 2005, and then the last episode of season 1 ended in April 6th of 2006. So wow, it was a pretty long run. So it's pretty freaking incredible. Did not even realize that. I rewatched Yu-Gi-Oh a lot, more so with like the first 3 generations by comparison to the Zexal on forward. But yeah, I mean, this show had like probably so far as like my favorite example of a passing of the torch moment out of anything I ever witnessed. Because every time I see it, it just warms my heart. Because right away, we're establishing this is like a new generation, new protagonists, new set of friends, new adventures. Yugi and his friends, they had their adventure. Their time is done. They're moving on especially after Pharaoh moved on in the afterlife. Oh, I want to mention because I never brought it up. I don't think I did. That the theme or melody to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters is definitely iconic to a lot of, well, maybe not in as far as the grand scope of anime melodies, but for a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, it means a lot because right in the first episode, you get Jaden who's running to this, or if you saw my Yu-Gi-Oh movie review, there's this big dome behind Kaiba Corp, and there's this like dual academy that's been set up, created by Seto Kaiba for people who are serious about dueling professionally. He set up this school, and it's kind of like uh, if like a Hogwarts situation where he's got these three different tier of dorms, and like you got Obelisk Blue who are like at the high tier to the point where they got like a fancy little mansion and like very fancy smancy dinners that they have, and kind of like room service. So it's very swanky, given the fact that Obelisk was Seto's card for a while throughout Battle City, and it's Kaiba's thing that he's created. So why wouldn't he, obviously being the big ego driven man that he's known to be, would set it up to be like the highest, more prestigious dorm. Then you got Raw Yellow being the middle tier dorm, and then you got Slifer Reds being lowest tier, given because he's still like, because he still has a bit of saltiness about the fact that it was Slifer, it was Yugi who's won the Battle City tournament. He had Slifer for the longest period up to that point. So he made, just out of spite, just made it the lowest tier dorm, and people and like it has like the most like shabby looking kind of facility, like where it's kind of like look like hostel apartment dorms, and it's like and they getting their dinners are like rice bowls with like sardines, or just grub, like that's only slightly better than what you get in prison. I've never been to prison, so I don't know what kind of food they get, but I imagine this is only a step up above that. And of course, the raw yellows are kind of like more middle tier, like kind of like kind of like middle class type of dorm. Is very like if like, to put it this way, if like social structure, if like you will see like Gwyneth Paltrow will be like the Obelisk Blue, given her high tier status. Someone like me would probably be raw yellow because I'm a middle class type of civilian, and then like somebody on the streets with a sign with ask for money, not to be that drastic, but just to give you a clear understanding. Or if somebody living in like the projects, don't scratch that last part. If somebody living in like the projects or Section 8 type of people, they would be the Slifer Reds. And so far as like to give you a general sense of like the structure of how everything goes and how people will be treated, from Obelisk on downwards, which is weird how like the teachers there are not going to put a stop to that kind of like classification type of animosity amongst their students. But now that you got this dual academy with this big island with a fucking volcano for some damn reason, and ancient ruins here and there, and then there's like this laboratory probably off the coast or outskirts of this dual academy that we'll eventually briefly mention. But it's just like the way this whole place is set up is just like it's kind of like a weird setup in a way. And there's this little mystery going on, which is like weird how nobody's brought up on charges or somebody's dealing with outside of this place. But we'll get into that. But episode 1, you got Jade and Yuki, our new protagonists, running down the streets trying to get to this big dome area to where they're proctors and everything like that, trying to assess where to whoever is good enough to make it in, at least see where they will fit in so far as their what particular dorm room they'll be set up in. So Jaden just running around like, because he's late for some reason, and I'm not sure where his parents is to drive him. But I'm not sure why he's having to huff it on foot to get there. But he ends up bumping into Yugimoto, who's a little bit older now, and this is real Yugi, not a Tem, but Yugi, who's a little bit older, just probably like a couple of years, and he getting his for some reason it's not fully explained, but maybe it's just puberty or something, maybe. But he started talking not like little Yugi anymore. He's talking like a Tem at this point. He's a little older, so and you get to hear them. Well, of course, you get the new GX theme music, which is pretty damn cool in its own right. And it's like chilling out in the crew in the schoolyard, finding trouble, never looking too hard. It's a very cool song. I love it. It got a little bit more where it's like when animes make their theme music, it's like they're actually trying, which I don't think anime do. At least, well, I won't say they don't do it as don't do it, but they don't do it as much as they used to when they're trying to get kids really invested into a show. But as he's bumping into Yugi, it took him a second to realize who it was. It's like you hear the slow melody of the old school Duel Monsters theme, and it's just like that's why it warms my heart. You see, like, just the old protagonist bumping into the new protagonist, and he's like, so you're a duelist? It's like, oh yeah, sorry about that. Oh wait, you're I have something for you. And he pulls out a Winged Karibo card. Something tells me this one belongs to you. This one belongs with you. And Jaden just bows as Yugi's walking off. Like, thank you. I'll make you proud. And then you just hear that melody as like, he's completely, his eyes were pretty like silhouetted, but it's like, it's him. He just gives this guy a thumbs up and he walks off. It's like, it's your turn now, kid. And you hear that, when you hear that melody, it's like the protagonist you watched for 5 seasons, going through his own adventures with his friends and the ordeals he's went through and the trials and tribulations and lessons he learned. And like, it's like, and he sees this kid and he sees something in him, and it's like, and just literally passing not like a literal torch, but it's like when he hands that Karibo card to this kid, and it's like, and you hear that, Karibo making that cooing sound, and Jay doesn't know where that's coming from. And it's like he's giving his stamp of approval of this new protagonist. Because imagine if like Twitter or something like that were around in 2005, and it's like, people be on it and like, he's not my Yugi, blah 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 blah. And it's like giving, like, Yugi's there, like, giving, because like, I mean, I admit at that time, like, I was looking forward to the show, but at that time, it's like I wasn't too sure how this kid's gonna work out, what his kind of set of cards is. And it's like, but it's like you having that character, the character that we grew up with, giving his essentially his stamp of approval of this new protagonist. And it's like, I approve, so we will all approve. Okay, let's give this kid a shot. So then you get the kick-ass GX theme song. Then you get to see like the characters that you'll come across throughout this entire series. You got Alexis Rhodes and Zane Truesdale. You see Cyrus Truesdale, Bastian Masawa, and you got Professor Crowler and Chancellor Shepard, and Chaz Princeton. And like you get to see the kind of people, because the way they are, the dialogue they get and the way they're designed, you can tell they're definitely going to be given how like not extravagant like Crowler is. And you get to see Chumley. No, Chumley's coming in the next episode, but you get to see like they're the very distinct looks, so you get to tell like they're gonna be like important throughout this series. Chaz Princeton is pretty well. See, here's the thing, and it's gonna be a running thing throughout like the Yu-Gi-Oh series for a while, where there's Chaz Princeton and Zane Truesdale, and then eventually in season 2, Astro Phoenix. They all each has an aspect of Seto Kaiba, and like back in high school, I talked with my friends, one in particular named Sean, one of my bestest friends. He brought it up, and I couldn't help but concur. Is like, why they need 3 different Kaibas? There's only need one, and Zane Truesdale, in my heart, is like the obvious choice because he, even though Chaz Princeton has the attitude of Kaiba, Zane actually has 3 cyber dragons, not dragons, but they're machine types who are called cyber dragons, who form a 3-headed dragon machine monster, and he's like the best duelist in the entire school. He obviously should be the Kaiba of the series of GX, but they made an odd choice of splitting split the 3 aspects of Kaiba into 3 distinct people, and I always thought that was like not, well, I wouldn't say it's a bad choice because I grew to like these characters, but it's just that it was like a weird choice where they could have just kept that aspect into one particular person. But it's not a here nor there with me, but this is one con out of the few that I have about Yu-Gi-Oh as a whole, but particularly in GX. Jaden meets up with Cyrus and Bastion, and then of course, he shows up, just in time before they officially shut it down for the day after they conclude how many they're gonna bring into Academy. But it's like this weird, like how he's like that late. How you that late, knowing that you're gonna want to come to this thing? You should have been like bright and early. I guess they kind of do that Ash Ketchum thing during the first episode of Pokemon, where he's waking up late and he missed the 3 starter Pokemons, and the only thing is left is Pikachu. I get it's like there's a weird running thing when it comes to certain anime when like the main protagonist is late for something. It's a weird trope. Wish they do away with that thing. But he managed to squeeze in just a nick of time just to be allowed to duel one of the proctors, which Crowler, being one of the teachers and one of the dorm masters for the Obelisk Blues, getting chastised by Chancellor Shepard, and like, you better not be cutting like any students or potential students like last year because somebody made fun of your wardrobe or mistaking you for a woman or something like that. And so, because he's dressed very kind of like extravagantly and posh, so he has like an Ancient Gear Golem deck, which is his particular deck that Crowler uses instead of one of the Proctor decks that they typically use to assess the skills of a student. He challenges Jaden himself just to get him out so he can be on his way. But Jaden utilizing this Elemental Hero deck. Now, if you ever watch me play my gameplays of Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist, I played around with not only, you can check out the videos on my channel, by the way. It's you can find the links in the description. But on my YouTube channel, you see me playing with not only the Elemental Hero decks a couple of times, but a lot of times. I love that deck. But also, I played a couple of times with the Ancient Gear deck, and Crowler uses that deck. And people like Zane and Alexis and Chaz was hoping to see like Crowler's rare card, the Ancient Gear Golem, which I guess looking back during that time, it was a brand new type of archetype and brand new card. But so far as like rare, that's that shouldn't be thrown around for a card like that. I mean, like, I gotta say maybe Cyber End Dragon or even like the Egyptian God cards or even the Sacred Beast cards are more the rare quality. Ancient Gear Golem is a good card, but he's like roughly the same level as like Dark Magician as far as like rare, or at least just a very good card is be like a more optimum phrase to put it. But Jaden utilized his showed off his fusion skills, because there's a lot of this series of GX shows off a lot of fusion, or at least showed off different variations of fusing monsters together, as compared to the previous series of Duel Monsters, where it's like not shown there that often, but like it's not like a theme. It's not a running theme like it is in this one. And just like with 5Ds, where Synchro is like a main theme, and like Xyz is a main theme in Zexal, fusion is like a main thing going on in this, because a lot of fusion is going on, and Jaden kind of really sparked that love for fusions. And so he fused his Elemental Avion with Bersenatrix to make Elemental Hero Flame Wingman with Skyscraper, who boosts the attack of Elemental Hero monsters to end up beating Crowler, which shocked everybody. It's like, wow. It's like he beat one of the teachers with his own deck. So, but because he's that spiteful, he put Jaden in the Slifer Red with Cyrus, who turns out to be Zane's brother. I probably should go over like briefly like each character. I'm just debating whether or not how to do this, because I want to talk about the characters and then the story mode. Well, we'll try to do it at the same time, but of course, they're at Duel Academy now. They meet up with Chumley, who's been there for a few years and haven't graduated yet. He's you talking about like Slifer slackers. This dude look like a straight up koala, and he has a koala deck. And it's like, you talking about, if I have like a least favorite character, I think Chumley is my least favorite character in GX, to be honest with you. It's not like, I don't hate him. He's just like he doesn't serve any particular purpose throughout the series. If you take him out, he doesn't change anything, At least with Cyrus, there's like an overarching story with him. Alexis has like a deeper story throughout the season, is where like she has like, there's like an abandoned dorm on the island, and like the island's supposedly be haunted, and there's been missing kids here, one of them being Alexis' brother. And there's been like a running theme halfway through the series, where she's been desperately trying to find the whereabouts of her brother. And it's like, how they keep it, at a certain point there's like a investigative reporter coming in and sneaking on the island, and after rumors of missing kids, and he doesn't turn nobody in or print the paper or nothing like that. But because of Jaden, he has like a renewal of his love of dueling or some crap like that. It's like, you have missing kids and nobody's being brought for questioning whatsoever. It is so weird to me. And it's always been weird to me in this series. It's like, why do you still have an abandoned dorm, first and foremost, that apparently contains like a doorway to the shadow realm for some reason? And like, where's the parents who have missing kids? Like, how do you explain that every year? You've been going on like 3 years apparently you've been up and running, because Chumley's been there for 3 years, maybe a year longer than that. And it's like, how you have a school like this running still, and like you got apparently kids having during like winter breaks and what have you, going back home for a stint. It's kind of like a college essentially, and like the parents don't say nothing, like, or don't hear from their kids for a while, and there's no explanation. It's weird, right? But then it's like at a certain point, her investigation runs her to the abandoned dorm where these kids were last seen. Don't know why there's no police or anybody running, cutting this place off, because it's abandoned. They just don't let kids come in here and just wall it off. And I was like, well, out of sight, out of mind situation. It's so fucking bizarre. But she goes there and like gets essentially kidnapped by this hired mercenary by Crowler, who's been used to use him to get rid of unwanted duelists that he deems unworthy to study at this prestigious dueling academy. And Jaden ended up dueling with this guy who has this knockoff Millennium puzzle, which he calls it his Millennium Pendant. And it's like, he uses it as he calls himself like an out of work, because as Jaden kind of pointed out, he's kind of like an out of work carny, and he kind of admits it. But he uses this pendant to hypnotize people, thinking he's they're in a shadow realm, or their bodies being like, their mind's tricking them into thinking they're losing their bodies to the shadow realm, until the shadow realm really comes in and eventually devours the guy after, and then, or at least takes over at least some shadow demon who later later turns out to be infecting her brother, Alexis's brother, but who's eventually will be the overarching villain. But we'll get to that at the final season. We don't know this at this point. But he controls halfway through the duel Titan, the dueling mercenary's mind, into finishing the duel to claim a soul. But he ends up getting beaten and like devoured by these little shadow demons. And it's like, it was hardcore. It was like, even though it's not like blood or anything like that, I imagine the manga is probably more hardcore than this. But watching these little grubby little things climb on top of him and eat him alive essentially until he's like just gone into the shadows is so hardcore. And it's like, nobody cared. I wouldn't say nobody cared, but it's kind of like awestruck. It's like, there's nothing they could do, but they don't at least make the attempt to grab him from being eaten. But is what is. But eventually they end up getting like found out that they visited the abandoned dorm. But of course it was all Carl's doing, because up until like a few seasons in, he'd been trying to get rid of Jaden, who humiliated him halfway through this season. So he pretty much like had it out for this kid. Jaden is like, he's definitely had like a very massive arc throughout the entire series, but through season 1 he's pretty much like has this, I won't say arrogance, but he's just like very cheerful way of he's like believes like himself, like he like I just won't lose. It's like get your game on, and like, come on Cyrus, we can get this guy. It's like just no thought behind of just I'm just gonna win and that's just gonna happen. That's how that mindset he is. It wasn't until like a couple seasons in, when like getting to like halfway through season 2 into season 3, when you see an attitude change, slightly attitude change, and it's like showing like some growth to the character. He's growing up, and he's still like a kid mindset, like without any kind of like understanding of like a seriousness of certain actions taken, or certain, it's kind of like his attitude now is the same way how Goku's attitude is currently. And unlike Goku, Jaden managed to like grow up a bit, and like and starting to grow into like not like an adult, but like a young adult who has some world experience a bit. Unlike Goku, who still acts like, only thing he matters to him is pretty much fighting, and his family almost like secondary. Where Jaden is like, dueling is like love. He loves that, above all else, and he fights for his friends and everything like that. But he's always up for a duel, And it's that kind of attitude. Uh, uh, because it was Crowley was doing, but he didn't want to let Chancellor know, but he just like found like a back doorway into making sure like, okay, I can say he's been like, like, oh, like we found out that you visit an abandoned dorm even though it's off limits. So because the serious natures of this is a serious nature because you guys lost kids and you trying to cover it up. And like like okay, say he's get expelled. People ask, why did you get expelled? I visit an abandoned dorm. Why the door was abandoned? Like, I don't know. They should have bulldozed the place if they didn't want people to go there or visit there or sneak there or whatever. It's, bizarre how that is like a thing to them. It's like, it's on you guys to either bulldoze a place or like, put a warning out saying like, I'm pretty sure there's pamphlets to this place, or at least you had like an auditorium or a pet rally or something like that, or a speaker or at least being spoken to by the principal and say, hey, there's an abandoned dorm. Anybody caught there is immediately expelled. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So do not go there under any circumstances. That is it. Period. If they would have done that from the jump, I know they had like, fences and signs and whatnot, but still though, they should still have like a little announcement about that at the very least. So that way, there's no confusion, but whatever. Because of Jaden and Cyrus, for because they're the main two that is being offered up for expulsion. Chancellor Shepard come to a conclusion where, well, let's give them a chance. We'll do like a tag team duel, and if they win, they're not suspended or they're not expelled. But if they lose, they will be expelled. And through a couple of episodes before it leads to this massive tag team duel, Jaden is trying to like prep Cyrus, because Cyrus, like, if there's like a secondary character I kind of like the least, Cyrus is definitely second on this list. Chumley's number one, but Cyrus is number two because he's whiny. I didn't even like his attitude back when I first saw this as a kid. His whiny little attitude, his nervousness, anxiousness, and his like lack of confidence. I mean, it's understandable given the fact that he's like felt like he was like under the shadow of his brother, because when he was younger, Cyrus being bullied, he was dueling this kid, and like Cyrus was about to use his fusion card Power Bond to fuse his machine type monsters. He has like a Vehicle deck, which is machine type vehicles, while Zane has Cyber Dragon type deck. They both have fusion, Power Bond in their decks, but Power Bond has a negative effect where like you use it to fuse in some of your machine type monsters, and their attack and defense is doubled, but at the end of the turn, wherever the original attack points were on that monster is subtracted from your life points. So it's like a very heavy prices you have to pay if you don't be mindful of how you're playing it. That's the whole point of Zane trying to teach Cyrus, but the way he said it seems like he was putting Cyrus down instead of just outright explaining to Cyrus, because he was definitely like he's not I want to qualify him as like a bad brother. There's a lot of things with brothers in this when it comes to Chaz Princeton and his two older brothers and how their dynamic is. We'll get to that soon, but Zane is like a good brother, but his lesson to Cyrus sucked. The way he was carrying out for the first several episodes of this season sucked. He's like, maybe Cyrus doesn't belong here. Then it's like it says he should explain to Cyrus the difference between playing a card and knowing how to use it. Situation, just tell him what. Well, and teach your brother. And that's the point of going to the school, isn't it? Like, you could have taught your brother yourself, or instead of like, belittling him, because he already a nervous wreck, as you can see. Why are you hampering on him instead of just helping him? Like, here, Cyrus, power bond has a negative effect. Make sure you have a backup plan or something, or at least have enough life points to pay for the cost if you have to pay for the cost. Zane used this card before himself. He has a card, at least a couple of cards, but one in particular, a monster called Cyber Kieran, whose special effect, is, he can be attributed to negate any negative effects of that, any effect that will lower his life points by, monster or magic or trap card. Cyber Kieran, if sacrificed on that particular turn, negates that negative effect. So, he can easily have taught that to Cyrus. So Cyrus won't be spending most of this season as a nervous wreck, and like he has a pitiful attitude towards dueling. And it took Jaden to like kind of like give him a bit of more courage. And as the season, he has a more impressive arc throughout the series, where it's like he slowly goes into like from Cypher Red to Yellow, and then eventually to Blue by the end of the series, where he's a little more confident and like more of like a badass duelist than he started out as. That's why he's second of the lowest as my favorite characters. I don't really like how they treated Alexis in this, because Alexis is a badass duelist in her own right, but every now and again she's treated like a damsel in distress, or she should have been like the My Valentine of this as far as like skill level. But in the end, it's like, it's typical in Yu-Gi-Oh fashion, they do not handle their female duelist protagonists very well, and like she slowly started becoming like, she won some duels, but it's like she, other than maybe Titan, who she had an eventual duel with towards the end of the season, she gets lumped in like jobber throwaway type of characters, like some gambler that she had like a falling out friendship with as a younger kids, and like it's like a know nothing that she can like just have a duel with and obviously win. And it's like she should be like well, at least she's supposed to have been like appeared to be second only to Zane Truesdale as far as skill level, and that hasn't been really like shown throughout the entire series. Especially, I think maybe season 1 is probably like the best shown of her skills, period. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm going to eventually rewatch season 2 through 4, and I'm pretty sure she definitely had some duels, but it's just that she lost more than she won, and it's like weird how like that she is treated. You'll see it like after Jaden heard the story about how Zane treated Cyrus. Jaden like very like upset, like, what kind of brother like treats his own little brother like that? Like, you should be encouraging him and that kind of stuff. And then he challenges Zane to a duel, which he's like the best duelist in the entire school. And like, this is like, because up to this point, Jaden has been winning all of his duels, and like this is the first time he actually lost one. But it gave Cyrus a bit more courage, but at the same time, he gained Zane's respect. And like, he tells Alexis off to the side, like, I think Cyrus chose some pretty good friends. And then when the tag team duel comes around, you get the return of the Paradox brothers. that you haven't seen since Duelist Kingdom, and it's supposed to be dueling mercenaries, and it's like, and they still wearing the same wardrobe. I find that weird. I would think they would kind of like, if they bring in these people back, you see a lot of certain returns of older characters in this series, especially in season 1 though. You get the return of Paradox Brothers, and they still wearing that same, kind of like Chinese garb. I'm not sure if they Chinese or Japanese, but they still wearing that same wardrobe. You would think they kind of like update that in their clothes a bit, because I don't know. I don't know. I just kind of thought that was kind of like I guess it's kind of like just to give the nostalgia factor, but you would think they would kind of update the clothes. But they still doing the rhyming thing, and Jaden kind of like he made a joke talking about like, I wish they would have had like a orange dorm, so that way we don't have to put with their crappy rhyming. And it's like, there's stuff you can rhyme with orange. There's few, but there is stuff. But it was because just like with Yugi and Joey, when Fusion summoning the Black Skull Dragon, or at least the Red Eyes Black Skull Dragon, with the combination of Red Eyes and Summon Skull, in order to win against the Paradox Brothers, Cyrus and Jaden Fusion summon their 2 best monsters to beat their monster in the end. Which goes to show like the slowly but surely the skills evolving when it comes to Cyrus. What else? You get to meet like Chumley's dad, who's like a hot sauce tycoon or something like that. But let's be honest, we knew it was alcohol. It's like, it's sake in the Japanese, and it's like, I get it. For kids, you don't want like kids to see like alcohol being displayed, or didn't want to look like they're marketing alcohol to kids. But it's like, you could have, out of all the beverages in the world, you chose hot sauce as a placeholder to sake. You could have made it orange juice, Kool-Aid. You could have made it soda pop, tea, like water. Why hot sauce? And drinking it, guzzling it like it like nobody drinks hot sauce. Like straight from the tap. Nobody does that. That was a weird placeholder. I get it. You don't want to have alcohol. It's a kids show. You didn't want to have alcohol being displayed. But out of all the beverages you can chose, you chose hot sauce. Hot sauce is not even a beverage. It's a condiment. It's a condiment, goddammit. You might as well just like, here, drink ketchup. It's weird. But you get to see a little bit of Chumley's little familiar history. And like, the relationship with his father is, I won't say strained, but it's like, his father's, have issues with Chumley. He's, haven't graduated yet. He's been here for a long time. And it's like, you're going to work for me and become like, as part of my hot sauce empire. And like, you get to see Chumley's deck for the first time, which is like a beast themed deck, but it's a koala theme, because he's got like little puff balls here on his hair, and he's fat, and so he's like, he looks like a koala with the nose and everything. You see him at one point, on a tree, clinging to it like a koala, and it's like, oh my god, they really leaning towards that koala look. And Chumley's dad looked like Dave Bautista with a koala nose, and it's like kind of funny. Of course, we didn't know who Dave Bautista was at that time during the airing of this, but now we have some point of reference. You can picture Dave Bautista with a koala nose, and like that's pretty much Chumley's dad. And like of course, Chumley went to Duel Academy to like study to become like a card designer for uh, uh, for the Duel Monsters series in this universe, and he's a pretty good artist. You see it from here and there, and he eventually does get like an offer from Pegasus, who shows up here and there throughout the series. And there's a contest that Chumley won, who wins like an art contest to become one of the lead artists for Industrial Illusions for the card game. And it was like a big moment. I think that was like the best Chumley centered episode that I've seen, and like the only one that I actually like. And like it was a nice little growth of the character, if any, that he's been like lazy, and the only thing he's been concerned with like grilled cheese and food in general, but grilled cheese especially. And it's like it's like, we get it, he's fat. It's like, God, it's like, we get the joke, he's fat, yes, get it. And it's like, it's funny for a little while, but it's like eventually it's like almost any other thing out of his mouth is like you want to keep that grilled cheese, like. And he's got this little goofy saying, a catchphrase, man, that's so licious, like combo-licious. It's like it's fun for a little while, and it's only on that one level, but harping on it, it's like you kind of roll your eyes after a little while. But you get it. But so that was good for Chumley. He gets his own little slice of something he work on his own without having to be in the shadow of his father or working underneath his father, kind of thing. He doesn't want to do what his father does. He wants his own thing, which I respect and understand. Chaz gets like a certain arc here. The reason his attitude partway through season 1 is the fact that he's even gotten to Duel Academy and gotten to the rank of Obelisk Blue because of his high status, because his family is rich in their own right. His last name is freaking Princeton, for God's sake. And he has 2 older brothers who just like, berates their own little brother. And like, you get to see like, the way they treat him, which eventually Jaden caught wind of this, and he always looked down on people because it's kind of like hurt people, and like because he was bullied by his own brothers, he turns into a bully himself, kind of like I guess a defense mechanism, so that way he's like just effectively, he wants to feel big, because in his own personal life he's not big, or he's being belittled or looked down on. But he still got like an attitude about him, but we had a growth throughout the season 1, where it's like with he sees Jaden as more like become more of a friend, but like a little more like Gary Oak in Pokemon when it comes to Ash, where it's like there's still like a rivalry, but he, instead of growing hating him, he sees him as like a low-key friend, but more of a rival at the same time. He's definitely had like a big arc throughout the entire series, but in this particular season, he duels against Jaden a couple of times. One wasn't finished, but it's doing like a school duel between like 2 rival schools. One is apparently in like this snowy landscape for some freaking reason, and like there's like this rare cards that he managed to duel against every person in this little place to get these rare cards and become their featured duelist against Duel Academy. And like this is being broadcast by the brothers, his older brothers. And then with Jaden's encouragement, he teaches Chaz like, you have a heart of a duelist. Despite what your brothers say, you are a great person, a great duelist. Do not listen to them. You have friends here, and you get to see like North Academy, this other academy, and Duelist Academy, with everybody's cheering for Chaz, and they're doing like this particular chant that he invented, Chaz it up, and you hear people like Chaz it up, Chaz it up, Chaz it up, and it's like because like they feel like kind of like surrounded. The two brothers eventually leave, and then Chaz grew to appreciate that, and then like become like reinstated into Duelist Academy. He duels against Bastion and then Jaden a couple of times, and then the rare cards that he acquired from North Academy, and that's another. They throw around the word rare willy nilly because he got the Armed Dragon level cards, and it's like they're good cards. They're not rare. Rare meaning there's only a short supply of them, or at least a very high prestigious type of cards like Slifer or Ring Dragon or Ra. There's this fun duel, and when finally Jaden's finally dueling against some kind of like otherworldly type of characters, this dual monster spirit of Jinzo, who's been because some 3 obelisk blue kids using like a Ouija board to like summon the spirit of Jinzo to get like I guess rare cards or something like that or whatever, and like they thought they could just offer up a card as compensation, but the payment is their souls, and like it's a kind of a creepy kind of episode where it's like, because when this particular thing aired, because it's aired nearly at Halloween, so it's very like a optimal type of episode during the time. It's like you got this dual monster spirit hunting these 3 people down for their souls, and like 2 of them went missing. And this is around the time when it's like I guess the holidays rolling around, so people are boarding a boat back home. And then this kid trying to run to the dock, saying like, okay, I'll just get out of Duelist Academy, never return. There's no way you can find me. And then it's just like Lecter in like during the virtual duel where he like Kai was dueling Lecter in full in like this long coat with a fedora and everything like that with the Jinzo mask. And it's like he's dressed like that, but it's actually Jinzo. And like he's coming after this kid, and it's like he's on the boat and nobody's apparently seeing him but this kid, and he's like can't get on the boat because it's like he's gonna be trapped there now, so he has to run back to Duel Academy. And so Professor Banner, Chumley, Jaden, and Cyrus follow him, or because Jizza broke in, took the kid, and they chase him after him, and Jaden duels him and like pulls off there's like a combo that I really like. That's why I love doing and using Jaden's elemental hero deck, where he uses Mirage or Nightmare and emergency provisions to get like a good combo going to not only get life points but restock his hand. And I love pulling off that combo. It's like it's like a good feeling that it's like you get like this kind of like rush for some reason. It's like I can lay down, like I got like when I get both in hand right at the start, or if eventually in a couple of rounds, it's a good feeling. So I can just like lay all my magic and trap cards down, play Mirage and Nightmare. As soon as the opponent's turn starts, I get 4 cards immediately, activate emergency provisions, get rid of that card and anything else I don't want, and just pretty much replenish my life points and my hand, so that way I can just like really lay into the opponent if I depending on what cards I have in my hand. I love pulling that off. It gives me such a rush. I can't explain why. I just love doing that. And he beats Jinzo, but that's his first experience dealing with an actual, not only losing his body to the Shadow Realm, but it's like he's dealing with, not like a fake crap like Titan. This is actual first time he's dealing with something that's serious. So that was pretty doggone fun. Oh, and these the King of the Copycats, part 1 and 2. This is my favorite. These are two of my favorite episodes on entire season 1, possibly the entire series, honestly, because you're dealing with this kid. You only see him this 2-parter, in which I kind of wish you get to see more of him. This is copycat kind of duelist, and Dimitri, who he's raw yellow. So the way he duels utilizing other people's card themes. It's similar to how I do it, where it's like you see him duel against Cyrus, and Cyrus beat him by utilizing the same method, because he's pretending to be Crowler, utilizing the ancient gear deck, and Cyrus beats him by utilizing the same method Jaden uses to beat Crowler. And that's the way to how I think Zane or Bastion, I think Bastion put it. The way you beat a copycat duelist is you utilize the weakness of whomever he's copying. But because during this, 2-parter, Yugi's cards are on display on tour, essentially, and they're on Duel Academy to be viewed by the students. And because he's so frustrated of always losing no matter what deck he's copying, he mentions he's copying Zane one time and Kaiba one time. It's like, how you copy these 2 duelists and you still lose? And they're very good decks, very well balanced, and it's like very hard to beat. You actually gotta be like up to their level in order to beat these guys. So I find it weird that he's copying these 2 and he still lost. It's very weird. But he then got the idea, okay, I'm going to break in to the little area, which should have been watched by security or sealed off, whatever. They're not very good with security on this island. But Dimitri breaks in, steals Yugi's cards because he's the best duelist in the world, and very rarely he lost his duels, at least to the known public. He hasn't lost, except for maybe a couple of times. But he then starts mimicking Yugi's voice, and he does up his scarf to flow in the air like Yugi's jacket, like a cape. And his shirt has the emblem of the Millennium Puzzle, and he's like playing just as well as Yugi would have if it was Yugi dueling. And it's like eventually people there's onlookers, but Jaden's going up against Dimitri, and like clearly this dude's kind of like bit off his rocker because he really thinks he's Yugi, and he's like he's literally talking to Karibo, so I'm like, thanks Karibo, this brings me back to Duelist Kingdom. And it's like Duelist Kingdom, dude, what the hell? And it was just like a funny little thing, but it's just like this duel is really good. It's really good just to see Jaden's cards going up against, because this is like already like in episode 18 and 19 at this point. So we get a little bit of like we're understanding how Jaden's deck works, and like and how it functions. So okay, we got a new protagonist, and like we understand how his deck operates now. We've seen his cards, his best cards, and like how does it stack up against Yugi's deck, who by this point is tried and true and undefeated, but the best duelist that's rarely been defeated. And of course, Jaina eventually wins, but it was like a nail biter of a duel. But they don't eventually turn him in because the other students who managed to see this, thought it was good to see, instead of just watching Yugi's cards on display, we actually get to see them play out in front of us in a duel, and that is just something that they didn't want to like be able to like hold on to and just see. But I imagine if Yugi found out somebody's been using his cards, I won't say he'd be mad, but it's like, whoa, like, well, I'm not doing this again. Tell you that much, because you got some thirsty kids getting their grubby little mitts on my cards. And I'm surprised he even allowed this in the first place. It's like a weird decision. I guess he's just doing it kind of like Cherry in a way, I guess. But it's like he should be with his cards if it's going to be on display. That's all I'm saying. Like I said, we go to the school duel, and then we get to the real meat of the arc in the second. I'll call it the second arc, because we actually get a story here now, where Chancellor Shepard tells Crowler, Jaden, Cyrus. No, not Cyrus. Cyrus wasn't there. Jaden, Crowler, Zane, Chaz, Alexis, Bastion, and Professor Banner, and charging them to be like holders of these particular keys that unlocks the Sacred Beast cards that's been locked away underneath Duelist Academy from these Shadow Riders who wants to unlock them and take over the world, because they hold like a great power that ends up absorbing dual monster spirits to power themselves up and causing catastrophic damage, apparently. The first Shadow Rider turns out to be Atticus Rose, but as Night Shroud, and he utilizes not only a dragon deck, but a Red Eyes theme deck, which I think in like the manga, Atticus was considered to be like second best. I mean, I think in the dub too, is considered to be like this second best duelist in Duelist Academy, right behind Zane. That's how good he is, and as Jaden managed to beat him in the freaking active volcano for some reason, which I don't know why is an active volcano in Duelist Academy is weird. The thing obviously is active. It can go off at any point. It's like Hawaii. It's like Hawaii has relatively active volcanoes. They go off, but it's like a volcano warning or something like that. It's just that it goes off, but it's not often. And I guess it operates similarly, but why would you run the risk of putting kids in danger of being drowned in lava? It's like an odd choice. I guess it's supposed to look cool, and I'm at least glad they put it in play. You have a volcano, it has to be utilized in some fashion, I guess, throughout this series. Why do you have a volcano and not do something with it? But they found out Nitro is Atticus. Alexis and Tears thankful that they have him back. Then the next Shadow Rider turns out to be Camelot, who's apparently like this vampirist who in lore she's kind of based on this Victorian woman who is rumored that she was like a vampire in history, but she killed young women and drained their bodies of blood to fill her bathtub so she can bathe in it, because it's supposed to keep her young and stuff like that. It's just been like a rumor that she was actually like a vampire, but she might have just been like a psychopath. But she ends up doing Crowler and then Zane and beating both of them because he used her best to spy on these these key holders, so that way she can be able to better defend herself when it comes to duels against these guys. Crowler really like showed some growth and and appreciation of his students, including Jaden. You know, he still consider him like a slacker, but he's not concerned with kicking him out at this point. He's showing some acknowledgement of Jaden's skills, and like he doesn't want to kick him out anymore. But he lost despite how impressive dueling on his part. And Zane, if it wasn't for Camelot trying to utilize Syra as like a meat shield, he would have beaten Camelot. But then it came down to Jaden to ultimately beat her. But these kind of duels does eventually, take out, kind of saps your strength, because it's like a shadow duel. And they only can get these keys and utilize them legitimately if they beat them in a duel. It's like a weird criteria. But Camelot only lost against Jaden thanks to elemental hero Shining Flare Wingman, a new elemental hero that had not only the same skills as Wingman as far as like subtracting an opponent's life points depending on the monster who was destroyed, but also Flare Wingman gains 300 attack points per elemental hero in the graveyard, which is more than enough to defeat Camelot's vampire deck. But she was like a very strong duelist in her own right. But then it was like another. There's a couple of times you get not only see Kaiba, but you get to hear Kaiba. There's like a moment of like where the brothers of Chaz try to return and take over Duel Academies, or at least take Duel Academy. And then bulldoze the entire place just in retribution of being humiliated and stuff like that. And dueling against, one of the brothers dueling against Chaz, and trying to worm their way into like a situation where they think they can't win by convincing, Chaz to agree to duel, but only using weaker cards, but he still ends up beating them. But at the beginning of the episode, they kind of pleaded with Kaiba, and it's like, hey, like, give us, give us a chance. We can like, let's like, get this, they're trying to like take over, but Kaiba, I guess like by the end of the episode, you kind of know who these kind of guys are, and I'm pretty sure he knew. Because given the fact that how he loves his little brother more than anything, and watching two guys who treats their little brother in such disdain, because they freely mouth off about, their own little brother with, without any forethought. Kaiba just like, like, yeah, you can, is like, if you beat him in a duel, yeah, do what you want with it, with the place. But he like, and there's like, by the end of the episode, it's like some security or secretary, like they lost the duel, and of course they did. It's like, it's like he had no doubt that they was going to lose, given the fact of how they, because he doesn't value them as like really true duelists, compared to their little brother, who's actually, actually has some gumption. So it's like, he has no, he just wipes his hands of the whole situation with these two, which goes to show Kaiba's growth throughout the series. At this point, he's running his company. He has no patience for people like that. He's no fool. So it's like I'm pretty sure after you figure out like what kind of people he's dealing with, he was watching this whole situations with these two. It's like a cool scene, and it's like, hell yeah, Kaiba. Just F them, whatever. These two are just repugnant people, especially towards their own family, or at least like their brother who is family. But there's this episode Fear Factor where up to this point Jaden's like actually starting to realize the seriousness of these particular duels that he's been in with these actual stakes, and he's having nightmares and everything like that. And like he's getting thanks to Wing Karibo, he transported Chumley, Jaden, and Cyrus and Chaz to this dual monster spirit world where they meet Kaiba Man, a dual monster card created by Kaiba in this universe. And Kaiba Man utilizing the same cards as Seto Kaiba, and like one of Jada's nightmares is being attacked by a Blue Eyes, and obviously he lost against Kaiba Man. Against a deck like that, obviously he wasn't going to beat Kaiba's deck. But the lessons he was trying to teach Jaden is that, we all lose. Is what we take from it is what matters. And it's just, you don't let fear cripple you. Because like, Jaden's halfway through the door. It's like, I know how to overcome my fear. Just not let it happen. Not let it happen. Anything can happen. It's like, this like shows like you don't let fear control you. It's like you rise above it, and like you learn from it, rise above it, and push on. And it's like I said, it's one of the few rare moments when Jaden actually loses a duel, and it's like every time he loses, he actually gains some knowledge from this and some character growth, and I really like that. I really do like that. And just to hear the voice actor of Kaiba again, it just like it gave me chills. I love hearing that voice actor. Then you get it's Bastion's turn. He go against this another duelist, this shadow rider named what's her doggone name? Tanya. It's kind of like a very like look like a bodybuilder type of woman who utilizes this Amazon themed deck, and she kind of looking for like a boyfriend and everything like that. She's kind of like boyfriend hungry, and like she challenges Bastion, and Bastion eventually gets like love struck and like eventually lost, and then she kind of like throws him aside and disregards him. Now it's like, you weakling, I don't want to date somebody who's like that weak and pathetic. And then Jaden had to like eventually duel her, and like she turns out to be like a actual tiger, and it's like, okay, what sense does that make? Okay, and some of these shadow risers are just weird, but they have like they're decent characters, but it's like their backstory is, because Camelot's backstory is like, she used to live in like, I guess like Transylvania, I think, and it's like, the vampire clan used to like, live in harmony with the humans, but then some kind of war between them brewed. They don't know which one started who started the fight, but it's just like her clan was nearly wiped out. Then the leader, who's utilizing the Shadow Riders to get these keys, found her coffin, brought her back so she can like, help get these keys, and I guess in return get utilize the power to bring the humanity to his knees and bring back the vampire clan from, I guess, whoever's left out of hiding. And then like eventually Camelot, I guess, Tanya, I guess, wants to find like not only a strong opponent, but I guess like a husband too at the same time. But then you get Don Zalug. I guess the remaining 4 keys were stolen from the remaining key holders, underneath their nose, and like, you know, these detectives, or at least Don Zaluk, who turns out to be, because they're dark scorpion cards, these like little thief looking kind of characters, or adventurers type of characters, in cards. And it's like how they bring these guys. I mean, of course, this is Yu-Gi-Oh, mind you. Like, there's, Jinzo and other in Dark Magician Girl that come alive for a brief stint to interact with people. So like, why wouldn't that make sense? But Don Zaluk, who's the leader of the Dark Scorpions, these goofball type of thief gang, he talks like crap, what's his doggone name, the actor, God, hold on a second. I was about to say Willem Dafoe, but that's not right. Christopher Walken. I knew it had a W in there somewhere. He talks like somebody doing like a Christopher Walken impression. Like put down 2 cards. He talks like this. Like, I will avenge you, my pretty. Like, it's like, my lovely. Like he talks like this. Like, oh my God. Like you're in trouble, Chaz. He challenges Chaz. That was a terrible Christopher Walken impression, but you get the point. It's just like you got that really way of talking. It's kind of the way Batman Returns, ironically, is just like you got this guy who's supposed to be his son, because Christopher Walken plays Max Streck, and the guy who plays his son, trying to do his trying to talk like him, trying to be like he's supposed to be his son. He gotta talk like him, so he does his Christopher Walken impression, like, "Go, Dad, save yourself." It's like, God, it still cracks me up when I think about it. I'm like, my God. And it's like, what do Christopher Walken says when people try to do an impressions of him? But Chaz goes up against Don Zaluk and the Dark Scorpions and beats them in a duel. And then a fifth shadow rider, which is some kind of another pharaoh, Abydos. I'm not sure. He's supposed to be like a legendary pharaoh that never lost a duel, but I don't know, because he's actually like he came into the present day through some kind of time wormhole, but I'm not sure when. Like because the head of the Shadow Riders is Kamamaru, who's supposed to have been like I guess help form Duel Academy in the first place to build up dual energy to power up these at least in a one particular good duelist who turns out to be Jaden, and transfer his mind and soul into Jaden's body, who would he would inhabit, or something like that. And somehow he got this out of time pharaoh, which I'm not sure. It has to be like a pharaoh that is long after the reign of Pharaoh Seto. Because like, I'm not sure what period of a pharaoh he is, but he's a pharaoh, and he duels against Jaden, and because Jaden actually got some life points taken from him, because he never even had life points taken from him, and it's like, he realized that all of his duels were fixed, so he will always win because he's a pharaoh, and like, because the servants were afraid they might get fed to the lions or something like that if they actually beat him. So Jaden actually encouraged him to like, okay, duel on. This time we'll do it for real. No, and nobody's gonna nobody's fixing this fight. It's gonna be just you and me. And uh, they duel. There's a really good duel between these two. And even though the Pharaoh Abadal's lost, and it's like he's trying to ask Jaden to come back in time with him so he can like rule by his side. And it's like I didn't notice, like, as many times I watched this, it wasn't until I actually try to, like, when I was reviewing things, I try to suss out certain things in more a little more focused. And like the way he went over, grabbed Jaden's hands, and like he's like staring at him. It's like asking him to come back with him. It's kind of like there's a little bit of a hint of maybe it's like some bit of like homosexuality to him. The way that sentence is structured, and the way he's looking at Jaden and holding his hands, like it's like I think he might actually be like a homosexual. And like, there's nothing wrong with that, and I think it's kind of cool to kind of like subtly put that in. It's kind of like a subtle reference, because like it's just like if you pay attention to certain wording, I might be I might be over analyzing a bit, but it's just that it's like a little bit of a subtle thing here, where it's like it's kind of like the way it's worded is kind of like a little subtle hint that he's gay. But Jaden refuses and everything like that. It's like well, if you're ever in town, we'll do it again. We get like a little short little reprieve, like a little filler episode, because well, before we get to that filler, when Atticus comes to eventually, after he realizes Titan, who came back possessed, kidnapped Alexis for a duel, and when she eventually beat him, he tells everybody that we the last thing he remembers is being told to come to the abandoned dorm for this private kind of lesson or duel or whatever like that, and that's when we were like taken by the shadows, and the person who told him to come in the first place was Professor Banner. And throughout the filler episode, nobody can find Professor Banner nor his cat, Pharaoh, ironically. And in this filler episode, you get a nice little return of Dark Magician Girl in spirit form. It's like, I guess, there's dual monster spirit, or just Spirit Day Festival. That's what it's called. And students dress up as their favorite dual monsters, and the spirit of Dark Magician Girl comes by, and it's like, every few times, she can come and into the real world and interact with people, and she gets the duel against Jaden utilizing a spellcaster deck, and everybody goes Google Gog, and she looks good. I'm not even gonna front. If I have a crush on any dual monster, Dark Magician Girl would be the one. Like, my God, is like I love looking at Dark Magician Girl, and like she's a cutesy anime girl, and it's like you talking about crushes, like anime crushes. My God, I love Dark Magician Girl, and I love like the Egyptian girl who is based off of Dark Magician Girl. I like her too. It's a very bubbly attitude, and like all the students are just going Google Gaga over them and chastising Jaden from dueling her back, and while cheering her on for every little move she does. And she's just like, wait, so everybody, thanks everyone. Like, and it's like everybody's just like blushing, and like she's just so beloved of a character. but it was like a fun little, I usually don't like filler episodes, but when they're done right, I definitely give them their flowers. But eventually, they found out that Professor Banner is the final Shadow Rider who already has his own key, thanks to Chancellor Shepard. And it turns out that he's a scientist uh, uh, who, because the real Professor Banner, at least the original Professor Banner, is like a mummified individual who died a long time ago. And like the Professor Banner they grew to know, whose real name is Armnell, he's a, if you ever watched Full Metal Alchemist, you know where homunculus is. It's pretty much like an artificial body, because because original Professor Banner, who was examining a tomb long after long after Pegasus did, examined some tombs himself, and then I guess one of the tombs, he breathed in some poison, and it's slowly starting to cripple him, and then he decided to use his knowledge of science to transfer his soul to the clone, and he figured like he'll work with like Kagemaru, and to get the power of the sacred beast to cure him, because the homunculus body is starting to decay and fail him, and he'll eventually just turn to dust, which eventually he does. But he dueled against the remaining key holders, and he wins. He beats them, and the only person left is Jaden, and as like a two-parter where like he fills Jaden's head with like, you weren't a great duelist. I fixed all your duels, and Jaden's like, you couldn't. This is impossible. Like you haven't gone to like, you slept through most of your classes. And it's like your scores suck, and it's like, how else would you explain why you managed to win all your duels? And it causing him to question himself. But it was all like a big test to for the real duel against Kagemaru, and Professor Banner gave Jaden like this is your final, consider this your final exam, and I just want to let you know, like, I'm extremely proud of you. And it's like he gives Jaden this book with a Millennium Eye on it, and like there's a card, the Sabaciel, the Philosopher's Stone magic card, hidden inside that he included in his deck, and like he eventually challenges Kagemaru after he takes the sacred beast, and he managed to beat him throughout struggling a little bit, because he managed to summon all three of these beasts onto the field, each with their own set of skills. They kind of like discount Egyptian god cards, to be honest with you, but they're powerful in their own right. And Jaden managed to beat him because he wants to, gain their power to be young again. Excuse me. And then there's finally the graduation match between after they finally saved the world, and Jaden convinced after beating Kagemaru, convinced that this, you don't need to steal other people's spirits to become young again. You find that within yourself. And it's like a quick 180 with this guy who's been very gung-ho about being young again. It's like, and you get a brief look at him as a young man after absorbing enough dual monster spirits, and he got like crazy amount of abs. It's like in the 90s, if you read like a 90s comic book of certain heroes, they got like, not only like, they don't even have 6 packs, they have like 18 packs. And it's like, you can see that, like, all these different muscles upon muscles. It's like really ridiculous amount of muscles. It's like unrealistic. And like, but after he lost, all that went away. He's become old again. But then you finally get like the graduation match between the two best duelists in the entire school, Zane and Jaden. And throughout part 1, Jaden is not playing like himself because thanks to Cyrus, of all people, getting in his head. It's like, you're doing against Zane, a guy who you actually lost against before. And like, it's not someone you can mess around with. It's like, and because he got in his head, Jaden tried to play with more thought behind it. And it's like, he's very thinky. He's like overthinking things throughout part 1. And it's causing him to like, take some massive hits throughout the beginning of the match. Until part 2, when he realized, I'm not playing like myself. I need to like think with my gut. And he's like taking a halftime break where you get like the lunch lady to bring over some food, some rice balls to eat. And then he's actually, starting to, really play. And these two like are really going at it with each other. And like, man, it's like these two, like just watching, I love watching this duel. Is like probably like my second favorite duel of season 2. And it's like these two like back and forth. And like, it ends up in like a tie when they both play Battle Fusion, but Jaden countered with a trap card, with Final Fusion, I think it's called, where it's like the both players' monsters both get destroyed and they both take life points equal to the combined attack points between the two engaged monsters. So it ends in a tie. And Zane tells Jaden, like, when I'm gone, you will be the number 1 duelist, so make me proud. And so they just, ends in a complete respect between these two. They, Jane's leaving Duel Academy with good hands with, Jaden beat the number 1 now that he's gone. And that's the end of season 1. So very good season. The longest season, I've reviewed so far. But man, it is fun. I love Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Just about as much as I love 5Ds and Duel Monsters. But those are the 3 ones I actually do like. Zexal and Arc 5 are very low in the totem pole. Not that like they're terrible, but it's like a parody of themselves, of the of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. It's like a parody of themselves. More so, Zexal is probably more of a parody of itself. Arc 5 is just like completely off the rails with like separating different universes from the way like how summons work, and it's like weird. But I get to that when I eventually get to Arc 5. But yeah, tell me what you guys think of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Season 1 and during the first arc of the Duelist Academy, and then the Sacred Beast arc. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Follow me on my Patreon, patreon.com/talkativecarl. If you have any ideas for other series that you want me to review, I'll definitely get right to it. But yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are. Like, who's your favorite character in GX? What's your favorite deck? What's your favorite episode? Which character you like the least? Which episode you like the least? That kind of thing. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, Chancellor Shepard's voice is very like goofy. I was like, like, Dr. Crawler, are you haven't expelled anybody yet? And like, it's like very like weird voice, like a weird choice of a voice for this character. It's like, what have I done? Like, so Jaden, welcome to Duel Academy. It's like that voice. It's like, yeah, that voice is like very weird choice of a voice. Now, deal breaker. This is something I want to point out how goofy that sounds, but yeah, season 1, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, phenomenal. I love it. Despite the cons I have about it, it's still minor because overall it's still so enjoyable. There's so many good duels, great episodes, and I will eventually get to it. But Jaden definitely get like progressing here because he's this season he's definitely he doesn't take things. I mean, as he's shown in graduation match episode, he's not the type to think things out. He acts with his gut and his heart, but it's not like necessarily like a bad thing. Where every once in a while he puts some thought behind certain actions that he does, and you see him become more serious towards season 4. But we'll get to that progressing because he kind of like ducktails too far in the other direction, and it's like in the end he found like a balance between like his love of dueling and like certain things he kind of needs to take a little bit serious. It's like he's a kid that's showing slowly but surely becoming more so of a young adult. But yeah, I will see you guys next time for JoJo Bizarre Adventure season 1. That's the next thing I'll be going to be doing a review for, but I'll get to reviewing that as soon as I can. So take care. I'll see you guys next time.